The directors come.
Sorry?
Directors, they come.
Yeah, okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, today we are having a panel with three of them.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And then we're going into construction and programming.
Yes.
So, we've developed that helps.
Let me explain.
Yeah, let me explain. And he's developed something. Plan something. Asking questions, discussion. This is part of doing costing. So let me give him the chance to.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So you guys are all familiar with BOQ, especially in the context of it being an estimation tool, like use it for estimation. But I'm guessing you also know that it's used for many things, especially as a formal document in construction, preliminaries, preambles, tender notes, what all the stuff like only the cases are interested in, if you know what I mean. So what we've developed is like a part of the BOQ. So the best, maybe the analogy I could give is you think of a BOQ as a car, and this is like the engine of the car. The most tedious, error-prone part of the BOQ, obviously, is the estimation part, the actual quotes, so to speak. So this is like a tool to do the quotes, and the reason for separating it from the actual BOQ is so that the estimation is done using real-world prices, products and prices, I mean. I think, okay, some of you may be familiar with how a BOQ works, but for those of you who are not familiar with how it works, I'm going to try and simplify it. It uses something called unit rates, and then those are multiplied by the quantities to get the cost. Now, the biggest problem on a project most times is the mismatch between the design and the cost. But because these estimates are done using these unit rates, which are you think of them like groupings, okay? If it's like a walling, you get the bricks, the sand, the labor, and then you put them together, then you add labor, and then you get like one rate. So that's the one you keep using. The problem is you can't really it's not dynamic, it's very fixed. If you create a design and it shows up as 1 billion, for example, I'm giving an example, and you tell the QS like this is too high, it's actually very difficult to play around with that figure. It's much harder than you think. And part of the problem is because it's built in these like blocks. So what we've done is to separate it so that it's built using a material list. So instead of like saying a brick wall is like 100 square meters, now you'll be able to break it down into bricks, sand, and whatnot. And more importantly, this is for the QS. You can now take it back to the unit rate if you want to. So it's like a way of going back and forth if you need to. Now, let me just show you like a typical BOQ. It's like a typical BOQ, okay? This column here, the one that has rate, is the one we are going to focus on. That's really the heart of the software that I'm going to show you. And we are going to help the QS to come up with accurate estimates. And in doing so, now I'm speaking to architects. Are there any architects here? By creating it in like a separate platform, they'll be able to also like create a list of materials that the architects can reuse. So there are three main call them advantages, value propositions. You should like to use such a word. The first one is you can be able now to collaborate on the estimate. So collaborating in this case means someone has done a BOQ. Typically, the M&D will add his part. In most cases, if you have an interior designer or any other specialist, they also add their part. But in most cases, it's the M&E, and the other part is done by the QS. So in this case, they'll be able to work collaboratively on the same document. The architect can peep and look at what they are doing. The second point is the one of value engineering. Value engineering is what I explained earlier on. If a BOQ is like 500 million, hello, is the man I wanted this year. If a BOQ is like 500 million, and part of that BOQ you've used cement, for example, that is like 35,000. Okay, now you'll be able to look for like cheaper cement, maybe same brand. You can even go from like Toro to a cheaper brand like Hima. Either way, you'll be able to get that BOQ from 500 to 400. The point here is that it's much more dynamic than what you'd get working in Excel. And the last part is the share and reuse part. Now, this one is like, the analogy I could use is, I don't know if you guys know SketchUp. SketchUp has a 3D warehouse. You can get like components. So if you're building like if you're designing like a building, chances are maybe you want to get moldings or sometimes very well detailed windows and whatnot, like components of the building. So you don't start from scratch. And it's like online and it's shared. The programmer, as you guys might not know this, but they have a similar thing called GitHub. And in GitHub, they have like components. So if you're doing like, say, and you want like a sign-in page, you go to GitHub and you get like a sign-in page. You don't have to like start from scratch. In essence, it's like a shared repository. So here now, what is going to happen is with this software, the QSs are going to have some kind of like repository. So if, for example, you guys have a going rate, let's say 100K for walling, for example, you'll be able to see what the folks at like, okay, that's assuming they can share because you have to choose to share. Let's say at FBW, what rate they use, or like, you get the picture. So that's another offshoot. The last one, which I've not included here, but is, I think I mentioned it earlier on, is the fact that you're going to have a way of keeping a list of materials that you can share as a firm. You can build on it. Think of it like saving money. Every time the QS will create like a material, it will go in that database. So when you're starting on a new project, you won't be starting from scratch. You'll be able to look at that material and like see what worked, what didn't work. If a cladding system gave you some drainage problems, there'll be notes there. So I think I've spent enough time here. Now I'm going to go direct to the application and I'll show you a quick demonstration of it. So that will be okay here. Now this is the main, the home window, so to speak. But I'm going to quickly jump to the projects. I'll come back to it. Most of it will make sense once I've explained some of the things. But the basic takeaway is, it's like your materials will be on this dashboard that you can search for things and whatnot. So let me go to the projects. And what I've done here is do a basic mock-up of what it would look like for this farm. I've gone to your website and I've used the projects there. And it's really a mock-up because the entire material list is not there. But essentially, it would look something like this. You'll have all your projects, and one project will have like different collaborators. The admin, in this case, the person who's created the project, will add other people who are going to contribute. Most of the work will be done by the QS in the sense that you'll be doing the estimate, but every once in a while, someone will want to chime in and say, oh, no, this is not working, this is working. And, you know, the project will sort of have like a history, some kind of DNA. You will know that if we worked on, let's say, like this first one here, this one is Petit Village Hotel, eh? You'll be able to go to its material list, and then you see what was the final material list. I'm assuming you didn't work on the project and you just want to acquaint yourself with what was done. Now, let's just look at a project like this. You'll have to come in and activate. Here, I'm showing all the projects that you guys have, but typically, if you've not been added as a collaborator on a project, you won't see all the other projects. In other words, you'll only see the projects you've been added on there. But I imagine, like, for the QSs, they'll see all the projects, and maybe the directors, and I don't know, the client. No, the client will only see their part. If you can actually share with the client also. But the point is, you can have an online report. I recently saw you guys started a place in Kenya. So they will also be able to like see what you guys are up to. And with time, you'll also see what they're up to, material list-wise and cost-wise. Eh? So what I'm going to do now is to activate one, and we look at it. So this one here, activate. So it will look like this. Okay, so you have many projects, but each project can have many material lists. But ultimately, there's only one active at a time. And admin will be the one who can switch between the different projects. So you can preview the images here, and the collaborators will be added down here. Now, what I'm going to do is to show you like how you create a material in the list. And then I'll show you how to save it and group it so that it's reusable. So that someone working on a new project can be able to peep inside and see what worked. So let's go to this material list. This section, the material list, is like the canvas. This is where you'll do the creation, where you'll be adding the materials. Huh? So let's add a row. All the things you see here when you add a row are optional. Right? So actually, if I save this, it will save the row. Although everything will be empty, but the basic point is everything is optional. All the other things are like adding the name of the row, the description, the quantities, and whatnot. Eh? So now what I'm going to do next is to create unit rate. Remember, I talked a lot about unit rates earlier on, eh? And the role they play. Now, although I said they're the problem, there's a reason why, like, there's a reason they exist. It's not happenstance. It's like when the QS puts out an unpriced BOQ, it's the only way to get like an apples to apples comparison of the bids that come in. So as much as this software is about creating the estimates using actual building materials, there's a way to like group the creations you made into like sublists, and those sublists are what ultimately is going to make the new unit rates. But if you want to like look under the hood of what's in the unit rate, then you can just quickly like click a button and see what is inside the unit rate, and then come back, that sort of thing. You can even like hide the unit rate if you don't want like some members to see the constituents part, but this I imagine is not applicable for most of it. This will apply when maybe you've shared like this application with the client and you want them to look through, but you don't want them to see maybe certain unit rates, constituent materials of unit rates. So anyway, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly create the unit rate for concrete. So you bear with me, I'm going to speed run this because I don't want to take so much time, but I think it's important that you see it in action. So concrete will have, in this case, 4 materials: cement, sand, aggregate, labor, water. Transport. We shall, for simplicity purposes, we're going to keep them 4, but we're going to keep them 4. Maybe we'll add the transport to the labor. What is it called? The labor guy. We'll just give him a fatter markup, and he will do the transportation. So what we'll do is we'll sorry. Now there are other I'll call them like bonus tools that come with the software. One of them is the concrete calculator. Most times when the cases are doing, when you give them drawings, you architects, they do the takeoffs in like these unit measurements, so to speak. So they get like the square meters of the walls, they get like square meters of the slabs, running meters of railing, that sort of thing. So we've built some tools to make that faster for them. Although the truth is, most of these guys, especially if they practice for long, they already have this calculator. They're like equations, they're not actually calculators. In Excel, they already know how to do it. But what I'm going to use here is one that is built for the application. So you go to digysoftware.com/concrete calculator. You'll see it here. So essentially, it will help you like quickly get the quantities that you need, like in a cubic meter of concrete or whatever cubic meters. Here I've used 1 cubic meter, this one here, but you can, as you can imagine, you can do it for any. So we are going to do one for M25 concrete. I think you guys know what this M what mean, right? Yeah. So anyway, so we'll just copy paste this. I will just copy paste this into. So now I'm creating the actual material. So this is a new row, and I'll put it under quantities. And the most important part when you're creating a row is the category. You're going to assign a category to that row so that you can search materials from the database for that row. You can choose to ignore this and actually put your own quantities, because there are some materials, in fairness, you won't find them in the database. You know, if you've done like a certain cladding and it's bespoke for a certain project, like I saw that one you did for Petit Village, the timber cladding, you won't find it here. So in that case, you have to input in your quantities yourself, including the price. But for now, concrete is perfect for demonstration because all the materials you can get from the database. So the first one is going to be, wait, what was the first one? Cement. So let's make this cement. We can choose any, really doesn't matter. Okay, please, I'll close this. So the quantity is there. Okay, that's going to be added. So okay, cement is there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to search options. So now we're going to look at the cement options on the market, and we're going to assign an actual product to that row. I think some of you might zoom out here, but this is meant to be for the QS. So what to do? It's a problem. Let me put. I don't know what the problem is. Let me just show you like a finished unit rate which I prepared for this presentation. I don't know why it's misbehaving. I'll have to check it out. So let me pick one of these. One of these materialists already had them prepared. I think it's the first one here. Okay, so let's go to it. Yeah, so I'd actually prepared some of the materials used on that project to show you how it will work. Now, I'm most interested in the first one here. The first one, this one. So this one, the unit rate is already prepared. This is for M20 concrete. And what now typically happens is if, let's say, who was, I don't know, what was the name? Yes, no, him. Julius. So if Julius has prepared like a unit rate, and Carlton wants to like look through people under the hood, he'll come and click the contents, and then he'll look at what has been created. So he'll see that Julius has picked hardware world, he has picked this roller sand, cement, whatever aggregate, you get the picture. And also the labor you create it exactly the same way, you just pick like the materials that you're going to get a percentage of. Either way, Carlton will come here and look at the labor components that Julius has picked. So with this, we now, if Carlton wants to tinker with this, he'll go and pick this and tinker with it further, maybe pick hima cement and whatnot. But I think right now some contours of how it works are forming. So with that, I'm going to show you. So I'd actually already done like another version, this one, which had cheaper materials. So as you can see, this first one is 506,000, and the second one is 421,000. They're both M20 concrete, but this one is cheaper. And let's look at why it's cheaper. Okay, this one is using no, this is not the same supplier, but 31,000 is for, there's another distributor of 31,000. For demonstration purposes, I just changed this manually. And it's used instead of roller sand, you guys know roller sand, right? Roller sand, the white one. It's like the gold standard of sand. So only contractors who get cut about such things. So you might not know, but this yellow sand from Kasani is like a cheap one, and it's like not so expensive projects that use it, but it works. So typically, what you do actually in a project is you take they're called design mixes to the lab and test, and if they're if budget is really like a problem, someone gave me a job and I had to use like 25 to do a cubic meter right off their hand. So I know for a fact that you can get all the way up to like even 20%. But I think that's if you're including like transport as a separate item. I guess what I'm trying to say, it goes in the repository for this project and you can reuse it. So these other materials now, this concrete is really like a structure. It's a structure guys who might get a kick out of concrete, and maybe the QS guys, the architects might be like, so these other parts, like the cladding, the lights, really are for the architects who might want to see like, have you really followed like my specifications? So they will come in and peep and maybe peruse the, what are they called? The images. Of course, this one, to be fair, it's like cheating. We created it after the fact. But in most cases, you might not have like these images to add if you're the QS. But if you reuse an old material, then you'll have the images. But still, it's not so important. I know for the architects, it's a big deal, especially for the finishes part. They'll want to know, have you used the balustrade that like I recommended as the architect, that sort of thing. So essentially this is how a typical list will look for like petite village project, so to speak. And this is how you save like a sub list of like you select these materials and like click a sublist, and then you can make like another sublist of the sublist, so to speak. But I think I'm splitting hairs there. That's not important. What I've shown you is like the core of the application and how it works. So I think I'm going to stop there and take questions now.
Well, this software and what your parents basically going into the more in situation. And for a consultant or for US on the design side, how are we going to use this software in a very efficient way? So it looks like a builder that organizes everything.
So the question is, how is it speeding up your work? How is it making your work easier? As a QS, when you say consultant. Okay. What's the going rate you have for M20 concrete at the moment? The one you're using the BOQs?
I would say depending on one, I'm speaking 100, 140, 145.
140 times 3, 650. 510, eh? Yeah, so let me ask, what happens then when they say like this estimate is high? Like typically, what cards do you have that you play there in that scenario? I imagine it happens, right? Sorry. Yeah.
Not, it doesn't have an exact sign, but people check that.
Okay, I get what you mean. You'll find if it's like say 500 million and it's high, and somehow the conversation ends up with, can you get it down to 350? So basically, you just get the 500. You look at that percentage difference, multiply by that, and say, here you go, right? That's essentially what you say. Not very scientific, is it? Yeah, but you can already see how it's going to bring you problems once you've like gone on site. That budget is definitely going to get overblown. And as contract, I'm speaking as a contractor, we love such BOQs. We live for them because we know we want to make a killing. You want to dodge here, dodge there. Somehow, what was even initially 500, which even looked little, is going to end up probably even like 800. The thing though is, it won't be a problem because at that point you detach from the mess, like as a consultant, I mean. But if you've worked on projects which have like conflicts of any kind, you will know that your reputation is really like on the line when those figures start to be questioned. Especially if that BOQ is run like through other QSAs and what, like the guy did what? He put 300 for a cubic meter, like what? You get what I mean, eh? It's like as a QS, as a consultant, your reputation like lives and dies by the numbers. Eh? It's actually most QSs think it's like a BOQ is too high, so I'll lose work. No, you can't back it up. You've put this 400K figure, like stuff has hit the fan, and you just can't back it. You have no like recourse. But now you have the receipt. You will have the receipt, so to speak. It's not so much that your work has been eased up. It will be eased up. I'll get to that in a bit. But it's almost like you have a certain level of confidence that you didn't have before. So typically, I showed you like how this project structure, the layout is, where you have the shared materials and whatnot. You probably have another database of like the cheapest materials, you know, where like even if you like went off the cliff, there is no way that rate is going below like 390 something. Like you as a QS, you know that. So
So if you somebody say then you will not have them.
Yeah, what I've shown you is the way to create like a unit rate. That is the first time you do it. That's probably the last time you do it. So if you look at the, let me go to the home page for that particular project. Okay, it has these featured things. I'm sorry, but this will appeal to the suppliers. Let me first show only the projects for that, only the materials for that project. When you're a QS, you come in here, you already have like a structure for the BOQ. So you've done the takeoffs. You'll now be on autopilot. You'll just activate like the database for like, let's say the cheap materials. I'm assuming now they're complaining that your initial estimate is high. You come to the database of the what? The cheap materials, and you start searching. Now, let's say you're doing M20. Where's M20? M20 is here. You come here and save the M20 to the, okay, it's now been saved to the canvas. So when you go to the canvas, you will just input the, where is it? It's a new one now. So now you put, I'm assuming they've done, maybe you've measured 50 cubic meters. I don't know, 50. So we have 25 point something. It's think of it like putting a coin in a piggy bank. Like it adds up. You create the M20, and then practically the next time you create the M20, something has to have happened for you to question why that M20 needs to be revised. To be fair, it's almost how they are working, in the sense that they Xerox their own BOQs, but it's like you're Xeroxing a problematic unit rate as it is. Some of them, I don't know if they do it here, but some of them are even using unit rates they've had for more than 5 years. Like cement alone was like what, 37, 36 just 12 months ago. It's now 32. So it's like it's a lot of work in the beginning, but you don't even have to actually create like the entire material list. Just do a few, just do cement, plaster. With time, when something looks like dodgy in your unit rates, you go and create it. With time, you'll just see you have like 10, 20, 50, and then like you're on cruise control. And then like the next guy now who is like starting a BOQ, maybe you're onboarding like a new QS, you'll just look in the database of the cheap material. You say, this one, let's go lower mid-range. So you look like in, let's say that database you created of lower mid-range. Assuming you have about 5 of them: cheap, lower mid-range, upper mid-range, and then premium. If you're doing like petite village, you're very comfortable even doing 5, 10, like you're saying, for a cubic meter. You don't even need to revise to look into it. But for a QS, I guess it comes down to, answer your question, it comes down to how like you arrange your files. But there should be a way that it makes your work much easier, especially in a compounding frame, months, weeks. But also, there's some things that are not really like about money. They're about like just finding like this cladding you did. This, did we include it here? This one, this cladding. I don't know who the supplier is, but you say you're working on a new project and they've done similar cladding, and you need to like quickly, it's almost called like ballpark figure what it could be like. Maybe even look at the supplier. This one, Putimbawa, I don't know who the supplier was for that project. But you can like quickly, your mind already will have like somewhere to go, you know, as opposed to you, hey, that's Batram. I'd invited some people to join us, but he's called Batram Pora. He's my brother. He's also an architect. We're working together, but I lost my train of thought. What was I speaking about? Yeah, some things are not really about. I'm focusing so much on the commodity, so to speak, plaster, cement, but you've worked on a project where like even like the wardrobes become an issue. Like the client is saying, no way, apart, I'm not doing those wardrobes. And then you're trying to, you know, as a QS, you need that optionality. It gives you like power. Eh? The projects you worked on, when you add those together with like a database of materials, all those problems are like solved chap. The guy will say, no, 1 million for wardrobe, no, that's too much. Then on the other hand, they're complaining the budget is high. Now as a QS, you'll be like, okay, let's look at that database of the cheap ones. Let's call supplier X, that sort of thing. Eh?
Yes.
Mm. Mm.
Does this software give us a benefit with planning? Because you realize the presentation percent, we are not exactly presenting this. We are going to have to create a BFU. Maybe in Excel, or if this has something that can actually work as generation BFU as well. But the essence is that we are going to have to keep these rates from this database plugging into our day-to-day what we usually when it comes to Excel, whichever other software you use. And like you said, prepare a checkoff list or your checkoff sheet, your BFQ, and then you come here, you get it. Is there a way that we can link these two documents just to make it more efficient?
Good point. Okay, at the moment, let's say you have this. I'm going to explain. Okay, let me see if I get you right. You're saying, yes, it might be fine and nice to use, but want it to create like more work when I have to again go back and input those values in the BOQ. All right. There's an option at the moment. There's an option to do a PDF export, but I guess that doesn't answer your question. Your question is, can you do a CSV export, a plugin direct to Excel? I think we can. Especially because we can't even do a CSV export. When I say can do, I mean like days, like a weekend kind of thing to do. It's not that hard. But I guess what you're talking about is like syncing, where you click a button and what is here and is there. I guess also, yes, something we have been thinking about, especially in the sense of like, as you're creating the estimate, you add like a link to that cell, that Excel cell. Eh? So if you're creating this, what is it called? This description, you add like the Excel link here. And then when you go to Excel, you just click sync, and then it will essentially import that. I don't see why not. I think it comes down to a question of time, but I can already, the CSV export, that one max 2 days, even 1 day. I think you can do it. I'll do it. Because the PDF is much programming-wise, I'm saying. The PDF is a much tougher thing to do, and we already done that. But CSV is really easy because it's behind the scenes. You go from CSV to PDF, so the CSV part is almost even essentially already there. I think what we need to do is make it much simpler so that it's one button, and then you sync the CSV, especially depending on how you like tagged the elements you created.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes. Yes.
Can I see them here?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to. I think maybe if you could share the screen again. Yes. So here on this list, it I see down there it mentions what exactly what's in the getting the rate for the M20 grade concrete, and you only have to go towards the contents to see how it was broken down. Now the bit of the labor, see, is there a search engine for it as well, where you get the different kinds of rates, maybe based off the bigger, okay, for example, the plant and equipment? Are you able to search for that as well, so that you can get different suppliers and how they hire out all that, and then maybe labor rates based off the different contractors as well? Because I see you showed us for the different materials how you're able to look at the different suppliers and how they have what their unit rates are. So are you able to do the same with plant and equipment as well as labor?
Yeah. Is that the end of the question?
Yes.
The short answer is yes. The short answer is yes. In this case, as long as you've tagged an element, in this case we've tagged this as labor, and there's that almost always means that there's already a supplier, at least one supplier. So in this case, this is 25,000. So if we go and search, if we click the search option, we should see, okay, there's only one supplier, but there'll be others, but you get the concept. It's still the same concept. This one though is charging 35%. So if someone has put 35%, there'll probably be another guy of 25. You get the concept. Now regarding the plant, let's say, I'm guessing you're talking of like vibrator, mixer, that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Yes, they work the same. They work the same way. In let's say we create what, a mixer, concrete mixer. It works the same way. Though in that case it will be per day, I think. Let's say, let's just save this. So this is you should search under concrete mixers. This one here. Yeah, so there's one guy of 130K, there's a guy of 70K, there's a guy of 100K, but the concept is the same. I think what I prepared for it was for presentation, like demonstration purposes. So I had to keep it very simple, very simple. But most of the things work the same way conceptually. Add the category, then search in the options for the category, then you put your quantity.
Then, given that this is an online version, if I'm creating my BOQ in, say, Google Sheets, can I be able to link this directly to it? So if I have a BOQ vis-a-vis the material schedule and breaking down the quantities into that, can I be able to link it to this without having to actually maybe make a whole transfer?
That's not his question. Okay, I think the difference is that she's talking of Google Sheets, you're talking of Excel. So essentially, what you're asking about, almost like one-click button kind of syncing between the actual document, the destination in this case, which is Google Sheets, and this platform, right?
Yes.
No, we don't have the integration, but like I said, it can be done technically. It's and now with AI, some of those things are just hours or days away. Like they are not. Even for something like that, I don't see it taking like a week. It just can't. It's honestly, it's the first time I'm hearing about it. So you bet it's going to happen. Eh? So it's very good. Should I say critique or advice? So yeah, it can happen. Eh? But right now, no, it's not there. Right now, there's only a PDF export. But it can happen. The PDF export is accessed here, and then you export the PDF like that. So it will look like that. Although this is not answering your question, but if you need an offline sheet somewhere to punch and save. But like I said, like I was explained to him, to create this comes from essentially the equivalent of a CSV. So the fact that this is already there, that should be easy. It's now a question of, I think what he was talking about precisely was making it so simple that it's one click and the cells match. So tag this in the Digy software and then sync to the Excel, assuming you don't switch your cells also in Excel. So I guess it's the same answer like I gave him.
All right then. Thank you.
Questions for me, guys? Architects? Hey man, did you do your BOQs? What the QSs do for you? Oh, you already asked for it on his behalf. Eh? So the M&D also can actually, if it's added as a collaborator, if the QS is inputting, they'll also be able to input. And then every time you input something, this total here in the top right corner should change. And you should have one document. Essentially, this is like it could be like a presentation tool for the architect, because the architects they get overwhelmed with the rows in Excel. I know for you, because you're the ones who do them. I mean the QSs, they look easy to comprehend, but for the architects, they look through. They're just going to scroll down to this page here, this one. Then they start. But the last one was 500. How did we get to this? No. You see what you can do. I think we are looking at something like 300. So, but now with this one, you'll be able to say, like, look at that grill we used there. Let's